All right, so here we are for part two. Check out part one if you haven't. We'll cover the West in that video, but we'll be covering the East in this one for the standings. And we'll start out with the Atlantic Division and the Boston Bruins leading the way in the Atlantic. They have been amazing this year. Um, 18 3-0 record so far. They're the best team in the NHL, and definitely a surprise to me. I had them missing the playoffs. I thought with some of the injuries on the back end, Marchand being out, that this team would struggle to produce, but they have been lights out, setting new records for wins at home. They've been almost impossible to be stopped so far this year. Pasternak leading the way, 32 points in 21 games, 14 goals. He's been ridiculous. And your supporting cast, Bergeron, 19 points. And then Lindholm, nice seeing him up there, fitting in well with Boston, 18 points in 21 games. So they look really good, and this team isn't even fully healthy. So maybe we do see Boston get one last shot at it with Bergeron and Krejci in this kind of core they've had for the last couple seasons. And yeah, they look very dangerous. The best we've seen Boston in a long time. Olmark as well, playing amazing net. 13-1 record, 930 save percentage. Swayman's been good as well. So this is a dangerous tandem. This is a very capable hockey team, and I mean, I don't see anyone threatening their first place spot in this division, and definitely see them as a contender throughout this point of the season so far. So, been very impressed with the Boston Bruins. Second is the Toronto Maple Leafs, 13-5-5 record, 31 points, and Toronto got off to an okay start. The media definitely blew it out of proportion. You would have thought this team was the worst in the NHL, but they were just around 500, and they definitely have picked it up. They have dealt with some injuries in net, but their offense, their players there have been doing very well, and I think Toronto looking like they will make the playoffs definitely this year. 6 goals, 21 assists, 27 points for Marner. Tavares with 25 points and 12 goals. Nylander with 24 points and 12 goals as well. Matthews, surprising not to see him in this top three, but I think there is more to give with Matthews this season. And once he heats up, Maple Leafs will be that much better. Colgren currently has played the most games for them in net so far, like I said, dealing with the injuries. And he's a young goaltender, so they did not get the best numbers, and he didn't play amazing when he was in. But benefit of the doubt, he is very young. 898 save percentage for him, 2.67 goals against. Like I said, with the injuries, Murray is back for them, and he has played very good in the games that he has played. Same with Samsonov. So with those guys back healthy, I think the Leafs are in good shape, and Murray will probably be here when we do the second quarter update, and hopefully his numbers are very well because it'd be nice to see a bounce back from Matt Murray. And third, we have the Detroit Red Wings, 11-5-4, 26 points, and yeah, there was a lot of hype surrounding the Red Wings coming into this year, and they have lived up to it. Definitely, they're in a playoff spot. Pretty good record so far, and we've seen a lot of guys kind of having great seasons. Larkin leading the way, 23 points, 9 goals, 14 assists. No surprise there. And then you got Dominic Kubalik with 21 points, 9 goals. He's been a very nice fit coming over from Chicago and has looked back to how he did his rookie year, possibly on a 30-40 goal pace this year. And Philip Hronek, nice to see him having a good season with 6 goals, 18 points. We haven't seen Hronek really break out necessarily in his career, but maybe this is the year. And Moritz Seider has taken kind of a sophomore slump this season. Raymond's been okay, but those guys heat up, as well as David Perron back heating up, playing well. So this team still has more to give, I feel like, and maybe they do make it in after the long years of rebuilding. Husso's been very solid in net, 919 save percentage, so showing that his play last year in St. Louis wasn't a fluke, and he can be a starting goaltender. And if they keep this consistency up and some other guys get better, I could see them holding a spot in the playoffs this year. And the final playoff spot is the Tampa Bay Lightning, 12-7-1, 25 points. Another similar situation with Colorado, kind of that slump. They have played a ton of hockey over the past couple years, but feel Tampa doesn't need to, win the President's Trophy or anything. They just need to get in the playoffs, and once they're in, that's when they can do their damage. Kucherov leading the way, no surprise there. 31 points, ridiculous so far this season with 10 goals. Stamkos, 10 goals, 23 points, and then you have Braden Point down there with 21 points. So they definitely do miss, a little bit of some of their guys they lost during the off season, but they couldn't really avoid it. They had up to the cap and had to make things work. But I think Tampa will be just fine making it in. Vasilevsky, a 905 save percentage, a little bit odd to see from Vasilevsky. We're not used to seeing his numbers this low, but yeah, he hasn't looked like himself. But I definitely think he will start to heat up and play a bit better. He is a Vezina level goaltender, definitely the best in the NHL in my opinion. But we haven't seen those numbers quite yet this season. But there's a long way to go for Tampa, and I would be shocked if they do not make it into the playoffs this year. On the outside looking in, the Florida Panthers 10-8-3 record. Speaking of shocked if they don't make it in, Florida winning the President's Trophy last year, looking amazing. This team looked unstoppable. Then they make a huge shakeup in their lineup, getting rid of Huberdeau, bringing in Tkachuk, and Tkachuk hasn't been the problem at all. He's been their best player, 9 goals, 18 assists, 27 points. He has definitely been the best guy offensively for this team. He's been great. Carter Verhaeghe, he's got 12 goals, 19 points, and then Brandon Montour having to fill in. Unfortunately, Aaron Ekblad injured again, so Montour has had to step up defensively. He's got 19 points in 19 games. For Florida, yeah, they've struggled. They've been inconsistent this year. Definitely surprised to see it. Guys like Barkov and Declare definitely need to step up and start putting up some more points. I think if they can get those guys going, they'll be fine. Bobrovsky as well has not been too great in net. Spencer Knight has kind of taken over, in my opinion. They've kind of split it in half, but I think if they would prefer, they would probably have Knight as the main goaltender. 916 save percentage, 6-3-2 record. He's looked very solid, so I think Florida can make it in. They're not very far out. They just need to find some consistency in their game. Moving on to Montreal, 11-9-1 record, 23 points. They've been kind of a surprise as well. They're not too far out of a playoff spot. They were in one for a good while here, and while they are rebuilding, we have seen them take a big step, it seems. That first line of the youngsters, Suzuki, Caulfield, and Doc, they all lead the way of this team. They've been extremely fun to watch. 24 points for Suzuki, 21 for Caulfield, and 17 for Doc. All these guys looking much better under this new system from Marty St. Louis, and they're definitely thriving in it. It's been very entertaining to watch them. I don't think they make a playoff push or get in, but showing that this team maybe isn't that far off from their rebuild. Unfortunately, Jake Allen has not been great in net for them. 6-7 record, 891 save percentage. Allen played pretty good last year, in my opinion, but this year, yeah, we haven't seen that yet. Montembeault being the backup, his numbers a little bit better, but yeah, it's just another rebuilding year, which will most likely be the result of this season for Montreal. Just another step building up this team, but it's been fun to watch them have some more success than last year so far. Buffalo is next. They have a 9-12-0 record, 18 points. They started off the season very high. I believe they were 7-3-1 at one point, and they pulled the typical Sabres move, unfortunately, in having a great start to the season and then kind of falling off a cliff and dropping back. They went on a big losing streak, but yeah, it's tough to watch, especially if you're a Buffalo fan. Your team kind of do that every single year. Expected some progression from them, and we've seen glimpses of it, but just no consistency really in falling back into old habits. Tage Thompson really playing well. He's definitely the most exciting player to watch on this team. One of the most exciting in the NHL. Just a huge guy that can just power through players and score great goals. 26 points for him, 13 goals. Again, getting that big contract. A lot of criticism on it, but he's played up to it. Dahlin having an amazing year. 23 points for him. And yeah, he set some records for goals for defensemen so far. And then Alex Tuch looks great in Buffalo, fitting in very well, and continuing playing well from last year with 21 points. Fortunately, the goaltending and the defense a little bit has struggled. Eric Comrie, 887 save percentage, hasn't been too great. Anderson, nothing special either. Unfortunately, these are not your typical guys you'd want as starters. 4-7 record for him. I was really excited to see Comrie sign a contract finally and get some stability on a team. But he has just not played great, and they've had some injuries defensively and haven't looked great recently. But maybe they can turn things around and have this season, be another, similar to Montreal, just building this forward of this rebuild. And then we have Ottawa next. Very disappointing season, last place in this division for the Senators. This was supposed to be the year that the team came out of this rebuild. They got the new faces in, like Talbot, Giroux, and DeBrincat. They made some big moves, and we were supposed to see them probably in the situation that Detroit's in. I would picture them in that spot, making a playoffs push, and 8-12 and one record, 17 points. Definitely not what you expected. They've had some injuries, unfortunately. Norris out for maybe the year. Shabbat was injured as well, but it's no excuse. This team definitely has the talent and skill to get it done. The goaltending hasn't been amazing either. You can see Forsberg with a 904 save percentage. Definitely hasn't been the problem, though. You can see Kachuk leading the way, 25 points, Stützle with 22, and Giroux with 20. And the new guys have fit in well, DeBrincat and Giroux. Obviously, they were without Talbot for a bit. He's played good when he was in, but I don't know. I think it might be too little too late to turn this around for this team, and it is very unfortunate that they're going to lose another season to a rebuild with, some of these great talents they added. I think they maybe just need one more piece on the defensive end and maybe a couple other forwards to really get over the hump that they just can't seem to the past couple years. But very disappointing for Ottawa so far. Get into the Metro, going from underachieving to really overachieving, in my opinion. The New Jersey Devils have been amazing this year, and not to take away from anything they've accomplished. They won a huge winning streak, 13, 14 games, something like that. They've been ridiculous. A lot of records set and leading the league in a lot of stats offensively. This is probably the best I've seen the Devils, probably since their early 2000s era. I didn't get to watch much of that, but I imagine this is probably the best they've been since then. And I don't see how this team doesn't make it in the playoffs. 18-4, 36 points. They are just a scary team going against them, especially on the offensive side. You can see Jack Hughes leading the way, 25 points for him. I remember a couple years ago he was called a bust, said he would never make it in the NHL. He wasn't good enough. They picked the wrong player in that draft, but he's proved everyone wrong. He's looked amazing. Jesper Bratt, finally getting some respect around the league for Jesper Bratt. I've been a big fan of him for a long time now. Definitely my favorite player on the Devils. And then you have Hischier with 24 points, 10 goals. So your young kids stepping up here, leading this team. Also, the goaltending has been very good. Not in terms of Blackwood, he hasn't been amazing, but Vitek Vanacek, very solid pickup, and it's paid off. 10-2, 923 save percentage. Well, he hasn't had to do much work because the puck's in the opponent's end of the ice most of the game. He has been really solid when he's needed to be, and it seems both the goaltenders that have left Washington have done good in their new places. So for New Jersey, would be awesome to see them back in a playoff spot. And with the way they're going right now, I don't see who really can stop them in this division. And second is the New York Islanders, 15-8 record, 30 points. Team that surprised me as well. I thought this core, after missing the playoffs last year, being a bit older, maybe they were weren't going to be able to bounce back, but they definitely have. Barzal leading the way, 25 points, only 2 goals. Would definitely like to see him, step that up. But if he can, this team's going to be that much better. Nelson with 22, Lee with 19 points, and Ilya Sorokin just playing out of his mind. A big part of why this team is at where they are. 933 save percentage, 10-5 record, 2.19 goals against. He has just been amazing this year. Definitely has taken over that net from Varlamov. We even saw that happening last year. And if he does keep this up, I mean, it's going to be impossible not to give him some Vezina consideration with a save percentage like that. So for the Islanders, it seems like they have their game back, and they will be back in the postseason if things continue this way. Third place, the Carolina Hurricanes, 11-6-5, 27 points. Hurricanes started out very strong. They've kind of been wavering a bit, kind of dropping down the standings throughout the past couple weeks. But I think they will be fine. They were my pick for this year to win the Stanley Cup, so I definitely see them making the playoffs at least. But they do have to get over that second round. They kind of struggle later in the postseason. But Marty Necas, 10 goals, 14 assists, 24 points. He's leading the team. Was surprised to see him kind of have an off year after a solid rookie start, but he's looked really great for them. Sebastian Aho, of course, 23 points, and then Svechnikov looking like he's having a good bounce back year with 22 points. Been very solid offensive core on this team, and adding Brent Burns to that back end is going to help. And it's going to be exciting to see them also when they get Max Pacioretty into this lineup. The goaltending really has been their only issue, I'd say. Antti Ranta, 901 save percentage. Anderson's numbers haven't been great as well. Hurt again, unfortunately, and Kochekov has seemed to be the bright spot. He could take over the net. When we do the halfway update, maybe he has the leading stats down here. They just signed him to a big contract, so I think with Kochekov, if he's playing the way he is, they'll be fine. But in terms of Ranta and Anderson, they just haven't been, up to par what we're used to for them. But for Carolina, I think they will be good making it in. And the last spot is the Pittsburgh Penguins, 11-8-3, 25 points. They started off the season strong. Another team went on a huge losing streak, and they've been able to bring it back and get themselves in a playoff spot. And yeah, I can't imagine the Penguins missing. They've made it, 16 years in a row now, 17 years, something like that. And I think this team knows what it takes to get it done. Crosby, 29 points, 22 games. Amazing as always, 11 goals there. And then Evgeny Malkin, 20 points for him through 22 games. Jake Gensel in there with 19 points. So your usual guys you'd expect, they're all playing well. And hopefully these guys can stay healthy throughout the year. And I think that helped greatly for Pittsburgh making the playoffs. And Tristan Jarry's been very solid in net. 914 save percentage for him, 8-3-2 record. So I think Pittsburgh will be solid. Hopefully that was their one kind of downswing of the year, and they can get back into getting back to the top three of this division. On the outside looking in, the New York Rangers, outside of the postseason right now, 10-8-4 record, 24 points, and they are a team that has struggled again with consistency. Very surprising to see them in this position. I thought they would be running this division, or at least at the top, after making the Final Four and looking so dominant last year, but they have struggled a bit this year. Fox leading the way with 24 points, Panarin with 24 as well, and Zibanejad with 23. I don't know. I think the Rangers will piece it together and get into the postseason. Just a bit of a sluggish start. Shesterkin with a 914 save percentage, not playing out of his mind like he did last year, but he's been good for them. Just a couple guys, a couple star players, and some supporting cast can step up here. I think they can definitely get back to top two in this division. I'd be surprised to see them not there at the end when this finishes. Fifth, we have the Washington Capitals. 9-11-3 record, 21 points, and the injuries have definitely hurt this team. No Backstrom without Wilson and Oshie for large parts of the season so far. And yeah, the offense has struggled because of it. Not a lot to work with when some of your best guys are out, and they haven't looked great. The goaltending has been inconsistent. Kemper really hasn't been the problem, but kind of their help defensively. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this team gets in. I was hopeful. I thought that we can't count them out yet, but with these injuries, maybe they miss. And 11 goals, 10 assists, 21 points for Ovechkin. Dylan Strome has fitted nicely, 17 points for him, and Kuznetsov with 16 points. You'd definitely like to see those goals come up. And like I said, Kemper, 914 save percentage. He's been pretty good. The backup position has not been as great. And for Washington, I don't know. Maybe they do miss this year. Flyers next in the 7th place spot. 7-10-5, 19 points. They are probably the most hurt team in the NHL. All their top players, it seems like, are out. Couturier, really, it seems like the entire team is out right now. Missing Couturier definitely hurts the most, but yeah, they started off the season surprisingly strong and just have fell off back to reality. and big losing streak they're on right now. Hayes leading the way though, 22 points, solid season for him. He's really had no choice. He's had to step up with all the injuries. Konechny, 19 points in 17 games, and Farabee, nice to see the youngster cracking the top three with 14 points. Carter Hart has been really good as well, a good bounce back year. 6-5-4, 915 save percentage. He has not been the issue at all in Philadelphia, but nice to see him bouncing back. And maybe this team, if they can get healthy, they can kind of recruit some wins. But then again, they were not expected to make the playoffs, even with their full lineup in. So Philadelphia, they've shown what they can do. They get those guys back, like I said, maybe they do kind of turn this around. And finally, in last place, the second worst team in the NHL is the Columbus Blue Jackets, 7-12 and 1 record, 15 points. I was not expecting Columbus to be this poor this season. They have played really bad. Yes, they have dealt with injuries on the goaltending side, and obviously Zach Werenski missing the whole year is a major blow to this team. Didn't see them making playoffs, but yeah, they've been really bad. Gaudreau hasn't been the issue. He's got 20 points so far, 7 goals, 13 assists. Jenner with 14 points, and then Johnson with 11. So you could see the numbers here offensively and the drop offs. They struggle to score. They really have not had a lot of offensive help. Roslovic has not looked good this year. Laine's been hurt, so yeah, I think this is another write-off season, unfortunately, for the Blue Jackets after signing Gaudreau to that big contract. It's disappointing to see. Marzlikins with, I think, the worst numbers in the NHL, 2-5 record, 474 goals against an 864 save percentage. They've run the rotation of 3 goaltenders so far this year, and yeah, it's another rough year for Columbus's goaltenders. Unfortunately, not seeing them get back to form of a couple seasons ago. For the Blue Jackets, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what they do. Maybe make some moves at the trade deadline, and kind of and keep this soft rebuild going. But yeah, disappointing to see for Columbus. It definitely sucks for their fans getting that big name player and then not really seeing the success so far. But